Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? We are going to nerd out with some stats here that I'm pretty fond of, to be honest with you. And formerly Football Outsiders are now FTN Fantasy, led by Aaron Schatz, the godfather of advanced analytics. They do an advanced stat called passing plus minus. And I'll explain it the best I can. It is a better way of looking at completion percentage. So it's great. I complete 60% of my passes. I complete 70% of my passes, whatever. That's wonderful. That's great to know. Okay. But not every throw was created equal. I mean, if you're throwing screens galore and dump offs or not to the middle of the field or easy throws, your completion percentage should be higher. And I've thought this for a long time, and some of you that have followed me over the years, decades, whatever, what I used to do, which was very inexact and shows my lack of math background, but I would take every quarterback in the league and take their completion percentage and multiply it by their average depth of target, realizing it wasn't exact, but it basically tells you if I'm a 60% passer and you're a 55% passer and we're both throwing the average distance down the field, well, mine's way better than yours. You know what I mean? So I thought that was something to go off of, but they've taken it a massive step further, of course, because that's what they do for a living. So they have this plus minus is what they call it, where if my completion percentage is 60%, but I'm throwing really difficult passes, it really could be the equivalent of 66% because I'm throwing harder passes. So, they throw away things like throwaways. That was an accident. Throwaway. Batted down passes, miscommunication. If a quarterback is hit when he throws or a quarterback drops the ball, things like that. So they take all those things out of the equation. Now, the other thing they do is read this one quote to kind of tell you how they're doing things. These metrics are based on how often a pass is completed based on the pass distance, the distance required for a first down. So completing on a 8-yard pass on 3rd and 12 isn't the same as doing it on 3rd and 6. And whether the ball was thrown to the left, middle, or right side of the field. Frankly, I don't know why that matters, but maybe right-handed quarterbacks complete more to the right. I don't know. This is accounting at the stat, so more attempts obviously are a great thing. If you just keep adding them up. So if we look at the quarterbacks last year, and actually this hurts Russell Wilson a little bit because this is a counting stat, and he only threw 398 passes compared to the people. Some of these guys are, for example, Dak Prescott's at 562. So he would have more opportunity to complete passes, to add to his plus minus, for example. But let's go with the bottom here. And probably no shock to you. And it doesn't help Kenny Pickett that he only threw 295 passes. But there's only one Steelers 2003 quarterback listed, and it's Pickett. And he's at the bottom of the list. I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks worse than him when you make this adjustment. And by their categories here or whatever, really he is 7.7% less accurate than his true percentage, than his plus minus. It's kind of like hockey. Like he's a minus 7.7. Which is bad, which is really bad, which means he wasn't attempting very difficult throws, to say the least, and his completion percentage wasn't that great to begin with. For example, Brock Purdy's best on this list. He's a plus 22.9. Again, think about like hockey plus minus. Jalen Hurts is a plus 20. Tua is a plus 18.6. Then we get into Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, and the one that kind of stands out that shocked me a little bit is Derek Carr, who actually had a much better final month of the season than he did early in New Orleans. But you know who's next? Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a plus 11.1. I'm sure Trubisky was low. I don't know about Rudolph. I'm actually sort of interested in that. And I think this stuff will come out whenever their full guide. It's not available yet, but it comes out. Their guide comes out in the next couple of weeks. So I do want to look into Rudolph. But Trubisky aside, who I assume was really bad, to be honest with you, Wilson is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 8th best when you adjust for all these things that we talked about, where Pickett is like the 8th worst. That's a massive discrepancy. So even if that doesn't hold true for this year, but it at least stays that trend, think about how many more completed passes you're going to have and first downs and passing touchdowns, which I can't get out of my brain how few they've had. I'm not saying Wilson's great, but just doing professional quarterback things, completing 7-yard pass on 3rd and 5, that type of thing that the Steelers just didn't have is really illustrated here well. So if the respective completion percentage could go up massively like this, wow, that would really be something. Now, I bet you're also asking, where's Justin Fields on this list? He ends up, surprisingly to me, I thought he would be a negative. I thought plus minus, but he was a positive 2.7. So if league average is right around 0, he's in the Trevor Lawrence, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Howell neighborhood, ahead of Joe Burrow, who had a bad year, right behind Justin Herbert. So better than I thought, but I do think that's noteworthy too. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, and many more. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, they also did the plus minus for team passing defense. Again, it's the exact same situation. We know that the Steelers last year, and we went over this last week and got a lot of good feedback by you guys who enjoyed it. The Steelers defense as a whole had a very low completion percentage allowed, but their yards per catch was high. And I took it to the next level and thought, with all the team speed they've added in the back 7, their secondary was slow. The corner position was slow last year. I would think their yards per catch go down. And if you can keep the completion percentage really good, now you're really cooking. However, as mentioned, the people at FTN did the exact same metric, but they did for team defense as opposed to quarterback. And the Steelers were really good. So in that instance, you want to be negative. If you're talking about, a hockey player's plus minus, in this case, you want to be negative. The Steelers came in 4th when you adjust for all the throwaways and spikes and, the degree of difficulty of passing. So to put this in some, frame of reference for you, unfortunately, 2 of the teams ahead of the Steelers also happen to be in the division. Yeah, tough division, such is life. But the Browns were 30.5% better when you adjust for these things. By far best in the league. The Jets were a minus 25.4. The Ravens were minus 21.6. And your Pittsburgh Steelers edged out the Cowboys and Chiefs. They were at a minus 20.3, which is 4th. Their completion percentage was 3rd allowed, but if you adjust it, they're 4th. Their average depth of target was 19th, as was yards after catch. Those are the 4 categories they have listed here. Again, much better pass defense than ever given credit for, by the way. And they didn't lead the league in sacks or, that they typically have, but it's still a good pass rush. I very much believe they've upgraded at corner. I know they've upgraded at linebacker. I think they've upgraded at strong safety, but definitely have upgraded from a speed athleticism perspective on the back seven, which I have to think is going to bring down your yards per catch, going to bring down your average gain per reception. Hopefully. I mean, that doesn't mean they don't blow more coverages or, just get flat out beat more. It's not a guarantee, but I think it's a heck of a good start. So I thought that was really promising when you really look at all completions are created the same. Again, I mean, if I dump it to a back in the flat, I'm not making fun of Ben, but that feeling on 3rd and 8 and Najee gets 6. That's not the same of Ben from 10 years ago driving it in the tight quarters in the middle of the field on 3rd and 6 for a 16-yard gain. You know what I mean? So this metric really takes that into account. And the Steelers' defense was 4th, great. And potentially, without getting too far-fetched, could be better. And Russell Wilson and even Justin Fields are major, especially Wilson, massive improvements over Kenny Pickett. So I thought that was interesting. All right, take care.